We're back.
Okay.
All right. So everybody who's just joining us or can see us now, my fault, because you know how they always say, yeah, nobody remembers their password from Facebook.
Yeah, no one does.
Well, with all the pages,
Right. Yeah. Right.
with all these pages that we've got going, our Oppenheimer Project's Facebook page and all that, I wanted to get my password right, so I changed it, and Restream, being good, I guess, or proactive, disconnected from Facebook. So now back up,
Classic.
and we're live. So hey, everybody, this is take 2. We're getting ready to get our show on the road, if you will, and we're live.
Yeah,
How's it?
good.
Richard's Trading Stocks.
Say it one more time.
I said Richard's Trading Stocks.
Yes. What I've learned is I'm not going to put my money, and I mean this in the most respectful way to our viewers. I am not going to put my money in electronic coins, and I am very willing. I said that wrong. What's it called? It's not called Bitcoin and Bitcurrency. Yeah,
Cryptocurrency.
Cryptocurrency. I very much think that I think it's going to be kind of like how Kindles and Nooks, like they were going to destroy the library. And they were, like the library was just going to be shut down. And hey, between you and me, I kids, they read books. So
my wife reads books.
Yeah, so
people love books. They love having their books. And I have this discussion with people because my new thing is audiobooks, if you will.
Okay.
Doesn't interest Monica at all. She needs that hard cover. She needs to read it word for word. She needs to, whatever her emotions are. That's what she's got to do.
I discovered audiobooks several years ago, and again, like let's say I'm working sorting comic books, or I'm going for a walk. Like I don't hate an audiobook, but I don't, like I thought I was going to start doing it driving to work, and I don't.
Right.
But on a walk or cutting the lawn or something. So I've been watching Mayor of Easttown. So if you hear an accent come out every once in a while on my end,
what was it on SNL? Dirt and daughter.
Which I really haven't heard yet, but because a couple other people are saying, but I don't hear it. I again, we will be doing a Mayor of Easttown podcast, I'm sure, at some point, because much like our topic today, This Is Us, I feel like Mayor of Easttown is that kind of water cooler show. So I actually, Shanna is just waiting for this to end so we can continue to watch. We still have 2 episodes to go. So,
but you know what I'm waiting for, and I just finished it before this podcast, and I want to do this next week. So if you're watching, this is going to be our topic next week. Did you finish Organized Crime?
Yes, because
I loved it.
It doesn't feel like it. Like I also think we're like, well, that's all right? Yeah, we're definitely getting a season 2. So,
and it's one of those things.
It's the worst ending, or we're definitely getting a season 2.
Well, Monica had her thoughts about the ending, but we'll talk about that next week. But I'm excited. So that'll be next week. But I just want to say real quick, because this is a podcast, and before we, that's one of the beauties of the podcast. Are you? Well, I guess I should say where I am and then ask you. I am extremely impressed on how these studios kept these TV series together through COVID. What do you think? I'm impressed. I thought they didn't let it fall apart, I think.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to say the word impressed. So, but maybe I will. Because no, let me retry that. We're watching Mayor of Easttown, watching Organized Crime, and you don't get the sense that there was a pandemic.
Yeah.
So whether that was testing the extras, testing your people, keeping everyone in a bubble, and putting on a quality program.
That's what it does. Yeah.
Not to sound corny, but putting on a quality program. So I guess maybe I could go for saying impressed.
Because remember, we talked about this without starting a whole different podcast, but the writer's strike, everything just kind of fell apart in Hollywood for a bit. But I didn't get that vibe with TV this past 6 months, year, whenever filming resumed.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, you're fine.
Boss. So, We should do a whole podcast where we just we should call. And then next week we're going to also do our teenage podcast where we look at our phones more than we engage with the audience.
Starting right now, it's like,
yeah, we do often invite. We would love to have more guests and stuff like that. The one thing we should say is anyone, if ever interested in calling in or having us send the link to be on the show with us, you do need at the very least like the ability to have the sound go in your ears, or otherwise there's that weird feedback. If anyone's ever listened to radio where they say you need to turn your radio down, that's why they do it, because there's this little feedback that happens. So I am, one of the cool things about Ryan letting me go on this little journey with him is as a talk radio geek. And, again, that's why audiobooks, I listen to them because I do not like I don't have the music on in the background and walk around like a lot of people will do that. Yeah. I need to, and a former, I was going to say former Howard Stern. I just don't pay for him anymore. But, I needed talk radio. So I was a big fan of, at some point, 94 WIP was all talk. It was, Opie and Anthony and different people like that. So regardless of the content, I just like having talking. And so it's been annoying with sports radio the last few years because it's just sports radio is the same conversation over and over again. And so it's not a lot of fun. Hang on a second. What do you think I want from you if you do that? So, all right. So much like I just switched to the third topic of our podcast, which will be, so when you have an annoying girlfriend, but I feel like you do that. That's a Tuesday. I should be on a Tuesday episode or
that. Yeah, it's a Thursday episode. Yeah.
Tell me when I have a dead boyfriend episode.
Yeah. Shanna said she would like to do how I deal with having a dead boyfriend episode, which is all right. It should be a pain, but listen, it'll probably be a big ratings. You'll get.
People love that stuff, right?
You know what? That might be the idea that gets us on the map where, you do one of those murder mysteries, and at the end, Shanna just reveals she was the one who killed the boyfriend. Like all of our listeners hung on, but she's too shy to be on the camera, so we'll never find out. All right, do you want to do some news now that we've gotten through this awkward beginning of our show?
Yeah, and here we go with it. Ready? Hold on one second. Take it away, brother.
Thank you. Welcome back, everyone. So we missed a week at the movies, and it was the first major Memorial Day weekend was the first major time that movies were back, and we actually saw movies making some money. And so starting with June 4th and 6th, this weekend's box office results, number one was The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It. I feel like I said The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, 24 million. I think The Quiet Place last week made like 59, 60 million. So finally, real numbers, not the numbers that would have happened if, say, Black Widow had opened on Memorial Day weekend. But still, from it, like 24 million, they weren't making that over a month within the last year. So The Conjuring.
That's what my face was like. I was like, what?
Yeah. A Quiet Place Part 2 went to number second with 20 million. Cruella with 11 million. Cruella, I think, is going to be that to see how well it does in the movie theater, to whether does that become a Disney Plus show? Because we're going to talk about a little bit about Disney Plus in the news with a particularly interesting article Ryan shared with me just seconds before we went on. And yeah, is Cruella making 80 million at the box office better than if they just put it on Disney Plus and got some new subscribers and got people back on their channel? So
I just got to say real quick before you go, I am hearing great things about that movie. I haven't seen it, but I'm hearing really good things.
I read that the sequel, which is that they want to do another one. So I don't know if it just eventually leads to 101 Dalmatians again, but yeah, no, they are really happy with it. Spirit Untamed, which is the prequel to the Spirit series.
Wait, hold on a second. We got a guest here, Renee.
Oh, is Renee trying to come in? Let's see. She's
Renee. Is that you?
Yeah, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
All right.
Renee is going to join us to talk a little This Is Us. and she'll have to suffer through the rest of my news. I'll go quick today. Did your daughter ever watch Spirit on Netflix?
Not yet. No,
Not
not yet. Her dad said it was she wasn't old enough yet, but
okay, fair enough. I was gonna say most of the things whenever I talk about things from the last 5 years, it's when I've a couple times had to babysit like Kenzie for parent-teacher conferences, and I see different like Disney shows or or we watched Spirit one of the times we did it. And then rounding out top 5 with only 1.3 million is Ryan the Last Dragon, but I feel like Ryan the Last Dragon's been out for months, so that's not too bad.
Yeah, so and it's been in the top, right? Every week you say it.
It's been in the top ever.
So it's hanging in there. It's definitely been there for months. Yeah.
Again, because the next few months are when someone's like, it is 90 degrees out. Let's go where there's air conditioning and a movie. And I'm glad that people are able to do that again. All right. And some TV news. For the first time in its history, 47 years, Saturday Night Live finished first in ratings across all ad-supported TV. I said 47 years. They're fixing amongst the coveted 18 to 49 adult ranking. Which is crazy, like compared to shows like The Masked Singer and This Is Us. SNL just edged them out. Again, a crazy number, about 2.67 million adults. Like, which, if we talk about a regular episode of Cheers or MASH, was 20 million. So again, we have all these choices, but SNL finally did well in the ratings for an 11:30 show. That was crazy. And again, like the rating show, Young Sheldon, a 1.2 rating compared to SNL's 2 rating. So good for SNL. Loki starts this Wednesday on Disney Plus. All right, the first of our Disney Plus stories. Loki starts this Wednesday. It's going to air every Wednesday as opposed to their normal Friday for new releases. And I'm sure we'll be talking about it a little bit each week. Will it have the same level of success that WandaVision did and Cap and Falcon did? I think it's going to be closer to Wanda because I think it's going to be a little weird and do something. It's not going to be, formulaic. So, and breaking news, and even though the ad looks beyond fake, so you guys can call us. You guys can call us out if it turns out to be fake. A Turner and Hooch reboot on Disney Plus, starring Josh Peck, who, if you grew up in the early 2000s, Josh Peck and Drake Bell had Drake and Josh on Nickelodeon. Where
Richard.
Yep.
If I could interrupt just real quick.
Of course, please, because you're that age.
And this is the official Disney Plus Facebook page. Where'd it go? It's not sharing. Hold on. Why isn't it sharing? Well, I'm having technical difficulties. Hold on.
That's weird. We don't normally have.
Here we go. There it is.
Okay, yeah, look at that. So yeah, Turner
Facebook.
Yeah. So it's got to be real. So, which in that kind of like, I don't know if the word irony is the right word here. Josh Peck's old partner Drake Bell was in the news today because he is being investigated for accusations of. It's funny because they didn't say sex with a minor, but it's this like malfeasance against a minor, because he apparently sent some inappropriate text to a minor, and he's being investigated for that. So different paths, different things happen. Still
love the show. I don't know about
yeah, great show. And again,
me up.
Right, and their little sister was Miranda Cosgrove in that show, and she will be rebooting iCarly in a few weeks for Paramount Plus. So when we talk about why SNL is finally on the top of the ratings, because everything is coming out on streaming services. So I'm sure we'll talk about iCarly. iCarly was in the news a little bit in the week we were off because the character who played Carly's best friend, Sam, she is out of acting right now. She never wanted to be an actor. She was overwhelmed by acting. So they replaced and they gave her a African American best friend, and you understand some people were very offended by that. That is not who iCarly would.
That's
iCarly
my
would never
childhood you're touching. You're taking
right, exactly.
everything away from me.
I mean, the answer is literally the actress who played Sam has no interest in being an actress anymore. So and again, we wanted to, So that was now from that absurdity to, and I will definitely want your opinion on this. Teenage Turtles are looking like they might have another reboot, this time with Seth Rogen producing. And Rogen has recently been attached to both Preacher and Boys, which are two more like adult, edgy comic book TV programs. So will the Turtles reboot be with like a Deadpool edge to them, or is he going to just have some humor? We have quoted Seth Rogen on a couple different podcasts over the last few months because, he has kind of said the key to superhero success in the movies has been the use of comedy. So is that what he's going? Again, now the Turtles have always tried to use comedy, but it's been that kind of like cowabunga dude, goofy comedy. So
I'm somebody who, and I remember you and I said that we'll do a podcast on this, and we will. Trust us, anybody who's watching. I hope it's just on. And you and I have said this before. You, me, right? We've been watching them since we were, itty bitty, whatever. We're ready for these stories to get taken to the next level. Me personally, I'm ready to see it get taken to the next level. I don't think Alexis watched it. I'm sure there'll be some sort of cartoon when the boys are a bit older, but otherwise I'm ready for that little edge to be taken to it, if you will.
Yeah, and like everything else in life, like we just have Renee who totally let us have this segue. It's up to the parents to decide what their children watch. So right. Yeah. So but again, we don't think like that as a society. Instead, we will just attack it. So all right, and our final little news piece, as it is Pride Month, we're going to spotlight in my comic book world. The first major openly gay character created by Marvel Comics was a character named North Star. He's Canadian too, so I probably should for next week look up who the first. But North Star was the first character to come out, and I'm sure if a comic book person listens to this, I also want to say he was the first character to then get married. But again, it was in the early 90s, and totally different time, so it was a big deal. It was a big deal at the time, but he definitely, and again, they did what they did. They took Alpha Flight, it was this Canadian superhero group, probably number 87 in the bestsellers, and they did it there. And so now, it's much more mainstream, and so we're looking forward to that. And that's my news. I feels like I should have a little, and that's my news. Oh, Shanna's texting from something.
I was gonna say, you said that's my news, and I was gonna say, don't even get people started with Blue's Clues, because apparently the mail is now email, and they jot things down on their cell phones. Speaking of things evolving, so I don't know. All right, so the reason we're all here today, Richard's T-shirt.
It's my big three homes in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
So we should warn everybody, spoilers. So I'm just going to start off real quick and then kick it back to Richard and Renee, who I'm sure are much bigger fans than I am. Richard, do you have a question to ask me about the show, like on my personal level?
Hey, Ryan, how far into the show are you?
Yeah, so I'm on season 2.
Okay.
I'm on season 2. So, and Richard and I were talking about this because I had just jumped in when they announced that the show is going to be coming to an end, and I'm like, I'm behind. But Monica's behind too, so I don't know. I might be sitting here on the sidelines.
I say you might want to just unplug your microphone, and I'll signal you.
I'll just leave right now.
Or listen, you'll forget. I always say I want to try to talk vaguely, but a lot of the details we have to talk about, we'll probably wind up just saying a few things right out. So, but I think this was in our first time when we messed up. When I first saw This Is Us, and Renee, please just chime in. When I first saw the ads for This Is Us, not interested at all. And because, again, this was, to date myself, there was a TV show called 30-something in the 80s, And so I was, this is just going to be a family procedural show. It's about a bunch of people coming of age. These they're turning 36, right, Renee? At the beginning of the show, I think they were turning 36.
They were turning 36, yes. And it's funny that you say that about the 30-something, because I was basically a baby while you were watching 30-something.
Right.
So for me, to see Milo like starring in this, I was just like, oh, hottie, I got to watch this show.
Oh, I got to say something about that real quick. So I think Richard might get this. So when I started watching it, I was watching it, and then I went for a walk, and then I was like, the dad. I've seen the dad in something. Italian? No, not mafia. Italian. Oh, he's Rocky's son. And I was like, it came to me.
Yep, he's Rocky's son.
He got very jacked. I just want to say that. He might be the most jacked dad I've ever seen. Most jacked TV dad for sure.
Jack is the most jacked TV. So, yeah, so we get
Gilmore Girls, correct?
Oh, yeah, he was in Gilmore Girls. He was in Heroes.
He was in Heroes, yep.
So, but when he was in Gilmore Girls, he looks like a teenager, right? He's in his early 20s at the most. So, but yeah, at some point he went from just the cute guy who you'd let carrying your groceries to the guy who you want to, move in and have 3 kids with. So So I don't remember when. I refer to This Is Us as that water cooler show that I feel like has been missing. And it's the first and only show that I know about where, when the next day when it was over, we were looking for each other in the hallways, Miss Rickards, Miss Wineland, Miss Galbraith. We were all looking for each other to be like, hey, did you see it? Like, what did you think? Oh my, or we had text message chains. I think we had a Facebook group. I don't feel like, we created a little secret Facebook group where we joined so we could talk about things without spoiling it for other people. And again, that's a rarity in this age of TiVoing and watching when we want and on demand and streaming. And This Is Us created that atmosphere. And they did it because while you were watching what you thought was going to be just like a family show, there's a major twist at the end of the first episode. So like we said, if you haven't watched this or don't want it spoiled, definitely
tune out now. Turn it off.
Right.
Turn it off.
And what they did was you're watching these families and this, you think, oh, it's about this because the dad Jack's birthday is the same day as the twins and triplets rather, and you think, oh, it's all these people who are somehow going to join together because they all have the same birthday, and you find out that the Jack scenes have been happening in the late 70s, and it's just like boom, blow your mind. I mean, I will tell you when they kind of peeled away from him at the hospital. And it's the old vending machine, and you can tell that it's the olden times. You just like boom. I was like, all right, that's it. This is, and then what has made the show unique is its storytelling technique over the last 5 years of telling stories in the past, telling stories in the future, which they don't go to the future as much, and telling stories in the present time, and so that way you can have major events happen to characters, and still keep those actors moving. And that's it. Renee?
I think that the thing that got me the most is the characters, the way that they build them. I mean, you can relate to every single character in this show on one, platform or another. For me, of course, the adoption piece of it, me being an adopted child, running throughout all these seasons with Randall and just seeing him take apart his adoption and discovering everything about it, his feelings on it. And then, of course, Manny Moore being the mom, or the adoption mom, whatever you want to call her, and her feelings on it. But I think for 3 seasons straight, we cried every single episode. It was just a complete ball.
It really was. It wasn't until the 4th season when they did some major future jumping around. But every episode you were, even myself, you were crying. Every episode. It was, they just hit you with something. And like Renee said, it was because they found something related to you. Like, oh, the way they handled that breakup reminds me of this. Or, and Renee got to connect on an incredibly personal level with the adoption storyline.
Renee.
And then Ryan is scheduling you right now for a podcast about adoption.
Yep. I don't know. Renee, do you know I'm adopted too?
I did know you were adopted. Yes.
Richard, you have to be like the host.
I want to be adopted. Go ahead, Renee.
Ryan, do you have a happy day? Or a gotcha day, as they now call them?
No. My parents snatched me right away. like 2 days after I was born.
That's fine. That's your gotcha or your happy day. So
Okay, so that's my gotcha day then. Yeah.
Yep. You should be celebrating that day as well. You get a birthday and as I called it, a happy day. So
Let's do it.
Yep, you got it.
Monica, I don't know if that means he needs 2 sets of birthday presents now, but
I
you
do.
don't get presents. You
I
just
get
go
2
for
parties.
ice cream.
yeah, go ahead. That's fair. That's fair.
I like water ice. But real quick, I just want to say real quick that somebody once told me, one of my friends Grayson, if you're listening, you're going to come on this podcast one day, whether you like it or not, and you're going to talk with us. He's a huge entertainment fan, movies, just like us. And he once told me that there's a director who said, and I forget the name, that you prove how good you are as a storyteller if you can do it without listing the date, location, this, that, and the other thing. So jumping to Monica's comment, what Ryan knows that my brain usually can't handle, but they did it well. Like seamless storytelling from every director who touches the show. Just the way they like back forth, like it's all perfect.
And what they will do a couple times in future future seasons is they'll do it like they have met. You think to yourself rather, oh, I'll know when they're in a different time period, and they will catch you several times.
Yeah.
Where you're like, oh, I guess they're introducing a new character, and then you're like, stop it, that was his uncle. Oh my goodness, that was in the yeah. They do it a couple times. They've really, unlike this podcast, I think they must have an entire room with everything like Family Tree, or they've used some sort of technology that where they just have to search because it's so well done. There's so little that happens where you can't tell they knew what they were doing the whole time.
Perfect, yeah.
So
I think that helps build with the character. Like we talked about this, the love-hate relationship we have with these characters, where like there's a point in time where we're hating on Mandy Moore's character, and then without giving it away, the cabin scene where as a mom you totally relate to that scene. Monica, I know if you saw that scene where she locks herself in the cabin. Oh, that is just a mom moment right there where you're like, okay, I feel for you. I know what you're going through.
Well, I got a confession to make. My post about Monica today was I was thinking about that cabin scene because, and I've said it on Teenagers, Toddlers, and Twins with Monica, and with Monica not there, that she has like really helped me understand that moms just see things differently and they put themselves first all the time, majority of the time. And they, and I thought it was great that, with, again, spoiler alerts, the mom ends up with the dad's best friend. Okay, you're a little, for a second. But for his dad to be talking to him while he's tripping on these mushrooms and tell him, like, look, like, you will never understand what your mother went through behind closed doors, that her goal was to keep you happy, to keep you safe. Like, and I think that's, like you just said, Renee, and like, I said, Monica said, like, that's like every mom, right? And sometimes they don't realize it. They put everybody before themselves, and then it catches up to them or can catch up to them. And it's just like, you're locked in a room, you start to break down. I'm not speaking for everybody, but that can happen when you're a mom and people just like don't understand what moms go through sometimes.
Very well said, Rye. Thank you.
I was like, I don't know why I wasn't relating to that. Though I am a huge fan of moms. I am a huge fan of moms. And yes, I was never understand. We're kind of like we always do, jumping ahead a little bit because we will talk about likes and dislikes of characters. And yeah, the Mandy Moore, Rebecca character, we would often in the text message chain be like, why is Rebecca's the worst? And it was like, no, she's not. And what the show did was really tell that story over seasons, which is just amazing because a regular episode of This Is Us covers 4 topics because it will always, other than special episodes, it will always give all 3 of the children something happening in the episode, and then it will try to give the parents something that happened in the 80s or 90s. So, we got 10 minutes of the Mandy Moore story. So we're like, oh, is she the cause of this? Or is she, for a while, though, we did not know what Jack's fate was. So we were kind of like, oh, if he's not around, did Mandy Moore, and again, I feel like, Renee, correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like we were just assuming like Mandy Moore did something or messed it up. But maybe that was just my Shanna's side of things.
I'm still, I mean, unless I missed it, I still don't know how she and Miguel got together. So I hope that is given to us in season 6.
Yeah, I think they've just kind of alluded to like, because it's that funny like early 2000s AOL chats where they find each other. I think they just kind of made a little like how they kind of first maybe started chatting a little bit, but what makes them just finally decide to get together. And yeah, so I want to jump ahead. So let's talk characters, which is what drives the show: characters and storytelling. There are the big three. The big three. It is Kevin first, Kevin, Kate, and Randall. And then so what happens is Mandy Moore gives birth to triplets, and one of them passes away, and of course they're devastated, and it's a loss like we can't imagine. And
Kyle,
Kyle, thank you. I could not quite place it. And if you guys know any of our old time listeners, Major Dad Kyle McRaney, Gerald McRaney rather, who played Major Dad in a sitcom, but he's just that classic character actor, is the caring, heartwarming doctor who kind of, I think, puts in their head that Randall, who has been given up for adoption at a firehouse, and he is dropped off. And, long story short, they take home 3 kids, 2 biological, 1 adopted, 2 white, 1 boy, 1 girl, and 1 black boy. And from there, we have this interesting story that's told over the last 5 years of them growing up. They appear to us as for most of the first season, and please, Renee, interrupt anytime you think I'm off base, but like they finish each other's sentences. They're the big 3. They have a chant together. They are like together. And then over the course of the next few years, seasons, we see all the little cracks and all, while they're like most families that have each other's back no matter what, they have definitely had the fights, literally have had the fist fights in the street and the arguments and the disagreements, but they have been there for each other through all the little secrets and things we found out. And I think we all have different feelings about, if anyone is listening wants to chat in who their favorite is. But Randall seems to be the favorite of most people. While he does have flaws, he is the most together, the one who seems the most caring. You see that reflected in him as a father too. So, and then a lot of people don't love Kate, I think. And then Kevin's a tough one because I think there's a mix of people who don't particularly care for Kevin that much. So
I gotta say something real quick. Oh, go ahead, Renee. You go first.
I was just gonna say, but Kevin does know his siblings very well, is what I'll say, and he has come to really help out when the time is needed. So as much as you are like, or not you personally, but just people are like, oh, he's so selfless, you're selfish, he's so worried about his acting and his love and blah, blah, blah. He does know his siblings, which is nice.
He's the one who I would say, and this might sound crazy to some people, he is I don't want to say the rock of the family. I'd rather say the glue, because while he has his own issues, he's able to bounce around with everybody better than everybody else. Does that make sense? Like he doesn't hit these walls with people like some of them do, like Randall did with the mom, or Kate did with the boyfriend and all the other things. But he's the one where it's kind of like, yeah, he has his own issues going on, but he's like, I can still talk to Randall. I still have a good relationship with Kate. It's I'm still able to talk to mom, so he can keep things going. He's that family member, if that makes sense.
I feel like, are you able to look at the time of 39 minutes into this podcast? So when you do catch up season 4 and season 5 of what Kevin does, so you'll be like, oh, okay.
Okay, so looking back at it,
I see. But calling him the glue, I actually don't disagree with, because that's kind of his role. I don't know what Kate would be. I mean, Kate's the sister. But yeah, like Randall, I think, is the rock. Randall's the foundation, but Kevin's that. I can see calling Kevin's the glue, because he means well, and he's going to make some mistakes, and he does make mistakes, and it's not going to be a fun final season if he doesn't make a mistake or 2 more. But that being said, he's an interesting character. He's a funny character, and
Hilarious.
and I think that maybe is kind of what happens sometimes with Kate. Kate is given, some of the tougher scenes. Like she's battling. Like it's very obvious that she's what she's battling, and and the stress of the relationship with Mandy Moore is your mother, and you're a larger woman, and all that stress. And I think. The actress played it great. Played it like, yeah, she was stressed out, and she can be bitchy sometimes. But
I also think she has this, she's Katie girl. She's her daddy's little girl. She lost her dad very young, and then what does she find? She finds an abusive boyfriend right after that she gets attached to. So I think, if they're alluding to her not being with Toby, this might be her like. She's just trying to find somebody as good as her dad out there, and just, is making her way through it. I don't know.
And that was what the Toby character did for her. He had the, like no one can do anything better than Jack, and Toby could like, oh, I could make grand gestures like your dad did. And yeah, I'm curious to see when we look at Kate and Toby's relationship at the end, if that is what it is. It's like, yeah, no, I was having you be a replacement for my father. And, though it does seem like Toby's making a mistake with what his decision-making is happening to add to that. So let's talk about, I call them the parents, and I think our parents there are, by the way, we could talk, if we were good planners, we could talk for an hour just about the three kids and their different journeys, but they all tie into the actions of every other character.
We're better than good planners.
Yeah, right.
We're able to adapt.
Right, because what happens is when things go off a rail for a good planner, they don't know what to do.
Exactly.
Right. Like we do. The parents, there is Jack, Rebecca, and I'm going to count William. I feel like just the strength of him for those first few seasons being on there. And then again, like I put in parentheses Miguel. Because I feel like Miguel has really stepped up in the last few seasons, being in that parent role. So we got Jack. Jack is, again, I always say things like this. I'm sure there's some video, and I know Renee actually watches a lot of these behind the scenes things like that. Like the writers just envision what a perfect father, like a perfectly flawed father would be. He has flaws, but he was just perfect, and it fuels the entire show. That they are chasing after that perfection. And at some point in the first season, I feel relatively early on, we realize he's not in any of the present day scenes. And we're kind of curious about that. Yeah. And then, I can't remember quite when we realized he had passed away. I think it's when Toby came over to watch the Super Bowl, and they, and again, so then at that point we are quite curious, we're curious about it. And, but yeah, absolutely. Jack could do no wrong in the eyes of his children, and even for his flaws, yeah, like Rebecca still, and then there was Rebecca, who is probably the most flushed out character, and the most like, I'm saying this wrong. I don't want to call her basic, but she doesn't have a deep, like she had well-to-do parents. She was chasing a dream of being a musician. Like there is no she was kidnapped. She was adopted. She lost a sibling in early, like they never gave her like a really tough background other than, she wanted to be a musician. It didn't quite work out. She sacrificed it. They've given her a couple storylines about that. And then the fascinating story of Randall's biological father and all of his addictions with being, addicted. So, and then, we see what eventually leads to him being sick. So how is William doing where you are, Ryan, right now?
So he's doing well. He's doing well at the moment. But what was this? We got a comment. Such a healthy relationship between Jack and Rebecca, flaws and all. They created a stable, loving home where the kids felt safe. So two things I want to say about that, if I can, real quick, Renee and Richard. I just want to okay it with you. So Jack is the dad that every dad wants to be, that hopefully every dad and husband tries to be, which is the balance when moms get a little bit flustered. And I say this to Monica all the time, respectfully. I say, babe, you're doing it to yourself. Tell me when you need help with the kids. Tell me where. And then sometimes when they get here, it's like, all right, relax. We're going to make peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, right? They'll survive. We're going to give them chicken nuggets. Like, don't worry. It's not going to affect the diet for the rest of their lives. Jack was very good at doing that. And to put kind of what Monica said together about Jack and Rebecca, the one scene that stands out to me is, and it's real quick, it's the episode where they're at the bar, you're not sure if they're on a date or whatever, where Rebecca says, I don't want to be like my mom watching my dad watch football. And I was like, come on. And she said, so teach me. And I was like, yes. I was like, that is how a relationship should be. Communication, put it together, make it work. So that's the one thing that sticks out to me. And, you know, regards to what Monica said, communication when there need to be communication, teamwork when there need to be teamwork. Disagreements are always going to happen. You'll hit the walls. But if you're able to pull one another back in, you know, everything's going to work out. So that's the one scene that stuck out to me about their partnership.
There's this element that happens with TV, obviously, because it's you know, it's meant to be fantasy, where you know, like everything gets fit into a neat package. You know, you know, Mike Seaver on Growing Pains cheats on the test. His dad talks to him and says, "You shouldn't cheat again." You know, they hug at the end. I love you. You know, where. You know, you kind of look at that, you're like, yeah, you know what? That's when my dad kind of whooped my butt, and you know, and you know, I was crying, and I, you know, and This Is Us does a really good job of kind of giving that fantasy, but making it so realistic, if that makes any sense.
Makes
you know,
sense.
Right? You know, where like, you know, and where I've heard people say like, oh, like everything's going to get fixed. Yeah, you know why everything's going to get fixed? Because they're going to communicate. You know, they're going to talk about it, and and there are times when doors get slammed, when you know, husbands sleep on couches, and when, you know, they don't get along for a couple of days. But you know, the realism that when you actually talk about things and you set boundaries and you do these things as a parent, and you know, again, they're not perfect, because you can set all the boundaries you want, and you know, your kid's going to sneak out because they really want to go to a party. You know, it's about how you handle it, and I think that's what This Is Us does, is do a really good job of showing that, you know, like, because it's not goofy, like, oh, you know, you crashed the car, you know, like, oh, give me a hug, kiddo. It's, you crashed the car. I can't believe you're that irresponsible. We need to talk about, you know, how you fix this, how, you know, and I think they you know, I think that's what the role that those parents set up for them. William obviously being a little different because he came into their life so late, and William just kind of was given the role of kind of like the poet. Actually, like he's literally a poet, and so I was like, "Wow, yeah, that really is a way to explain William."
What did he say? Like an owl in Pixar? That's the kind of voice you had,
right? Yeah, that's it. So, do you want to have anything to add about the parents before I get into the in-laws, Renee?
Just going off of that, like the fact that in the most recent episode, actually, where the kids, they're little, I don't know, 4 years old, 5 years old. Right. And they're worried that their parents are going to get divorced because they hear them arguing. I had that same reaction when I was very little, because my parents never fought in front of us. In fact, I told my mom, I'm like, how did you and dad never fight? And my mom's like, are you crazy? We fought all the time. We just didn't do it in front of you guys. And it was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. So like the adult communication needs to happen behind closed doors so it doesn't affect the kids. But it's a real moment, because it does happen. You do have those moments with your husband, your wife, your partner, whomever, in front of the children. But it's just important to bring it back, reel it back, and have that communication. And I like how they portrayed that in the last episode.
That was really well done.
Yeah.
So what we call the in-law group, which Miguel used to be, you know, he can be a part of this group too, is you have, you know, the all-star of the group, which is Beth Randall's wife. You have Toby, who, you know, was probably like all-star number 2, but, you know, results of the season 5 cliffhanger, which the season 5 cliffhanger is not a real cliffhanger. I wrote some goofy thing down on our sheet of like, it's not really a cliffhanger. It's like you saw the person walking through the cliff, and then they just went ahead and were like, all right, here they are 5 years in the future, and you just now have to wonder how they all got off that cliff. They did a jump at the end of season 5 that was just like shut the door, shut the front door kind of surprise. And Toby plays a role in that. Toby is a fascinating character. I realized I jumped over Beth. And then for like Kevin's counterparts is he's had 3 major girlfriends, and he had a wife, Sophie, and then his other girlfriend in the middle, who I don't really remember that well. And then Madison, the wife of his child. His children, because they have a thing for twins here in teens, twins, and toddler land. Yeah, we really should have just done a major crossover with everything and just been. That's what it should have been. It should have been a 3-day event, major crossover. This is
such
us.
a great idea. Too.
You know what? For next year, when the series ends next year, that's what we'll do.
Totally, we're doing that.
Yeah. But Beth. So we'll go back. Beth is amazing. Beth is strong. I feel, for the most part, Beth and Randall have just been the characters we root for the most. And then, and again, Beth is just that strong, intelligent character, who has to, again, you realize like, oh, these are just a great couple. And then you see Randall's flaws get shown in those first few seasons. And you realize, oh, Beth is even stronger. And then they go on in further seasons to really show, I wouldn't say, right, Renee, I wouldn't say Beth really has flaws. They show that she had like a deeper history. She had some issues that came up over her life.
Yes.
That kind of added to her character. Where with Toby, I think right away in the first few seasons, we learn he has an ex-wife. We learn that he has battled weight and been way more successful at it. I shared a picture on Facebook earlier when Shannon and I met the actor who plays Toby at a comic book show, and he was not, he was not a large man at all. So that was interesting to see that he wore a fat suit for most of the show, and then at some point they showed him. But again, Toby is just the funny person who knows the right thing to say and the right thing to do. And then with Kevin's counterpoint of Sophie, we've got little chunks of Sophie. I feel like we get an episode or 2 a season, but they've never really kept them together. And then this last season, he had a long relationship where, again, without super spoiling it for people who might want to catch up, it was really interesting to see the character Madison, who I think you guys have met. She's the skinny girl in the weight support group,
who everybody hated.
Everyone hated.
That was hilarious too. Comic relief at some point.
Yeah, and she steps up and becomes a major part of the stories in later seasons. Really, really, they gave that actress like a little bit, and she took it and ran with it and was just phenomenal. I mean, I can't think of any actor or actress rather on there who I'm like, oh, they just kind of dial in, or oh, they don't do anything for me. They are all amazing, even down to the kids. Randall's kids are crazy good, and especially there's a character named Deja who you'll meet soon. That's amazing, just really good. So, Renee, can you stall for me while I look at my notes?
I wanted to say when we were talking about that is I love the scenes where it is Beth and Toby and I think Miguel, and they have they have that connection of being, married to or whatever with the siblings and then Rebecca. And it's that seeing the family from the outside point of view. And they're like, oh, these kids are crazy. Because every family has that as well. Like that's something else. Like your in-laws and everything, how they see you and your siblings. It's just as funny. I don't know.
Watch guys ready. My in-laws love me.
That's it. Right. So you get that. You know what it's like to be. I
totally get it. Yep.
You know what that's like. So
I do.
Yeah, right. Again, Ryan, you can probably imagine the scene that Renee's talking about where like you're at a party and there's 4 people over at a bar, like the 4 kind of like, outer circles sitting over the bar. And we're like, yeah, we're never gonna be Jack. We're never gonna be, live up to Jack. We're never gonna be like a part of the big 3 jokes, so
I guess that's Monica's reference to my comment.
I think it is. But again, The last thing I'll say about the characters before we talk a little bit more about the storytelling and some of our favorite and least favorite things happen is, and I'm definitely stealing this from Renee over the years, they get an A+++ for the casting of all of the children throughout the scene. There are babies, there are toddlers, there are 12, 10, 11-year-olds, and then there are like 17, 18-year-old versions of them who, like, People Magazine or thing did photo shoots with them. Just, I don't want to say identical, but close enough to identical. They did a phenomenal job of casting, and every one of those kids, except for this new group of 4-year-olds, they could really act. Like the 10-year-old kids could really act. I mean, the 4-year-olds are 4-year-olds, but even then, I'm sorry, I'm going to correct myself. Like, right, Renee, when they gave them lines in this last episode about being worried about divorce, they were adorable. They were really good. So
They were
they've
adorable.
just kind of been in the season. It's just kind of nuts. Yeah.
Yeah, but you got to call out Beth's younger version, how identical she is to Beth. They even have that speckle in their eye. Like, that's crazy.
Wow. Did you seriously? Monica just wrote that.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, Monica. Seriously, right?
Yeah, it must. Yeah, I was gonna say, unless they cast that perfectly. Yeah. So, but again, and yeah, they're perfect. Even young Jack is really well done, and young Nikki, and then they have there's a character, we meet Jack's brother at some point named Nikki, and they have an extended part where they focus on Vietnam, and the character who played Nikki in Vietnam was amazing, and then old Nikki is amazing. So we're talking just vague enough that these things you're going to forget these things, Ryan. But yeah, the casting, the show doesn't work if the casting is not perfect, and they nailed every part of it.
I was just going to say real quick in regards to casting, and I think you two might agree with this because I'm starting to watch more TV. And with that being said, I just got to say real quick, it's hard for me to watch Law and Order SVU anymore. And I'm going somewhere with this. It just seems so rushed and corny. Okay, I'm sorry. I feel like it didn't feel that way years ago. Whoever they put in charge of this project, this show, the directors, the casting, all of it, it doesn't feel rushed. Like, the amount of things they're able to get in with not only the writing and the dialogue, but like all the scenes where you have to watch what's going on, what they're reading, what they're touching, what they pull out. Like, it's just so flawless, like across the board, the process, all of it. Sorry, I just wanted to say that real quick.
Right. And I think with Renee, the math teacher here, I think it's just a simple math problem too of This Is Us knew they were doing 5 or 6 seasons. They knew what their story was, whereas after 20 plus years and 30 plus years of Law and Order episodes, like, they're a parody of themselves now. Like, yeah, hey, a jogger's going to jog by and see a foot in a bush. And then in the next scene, 2 cops are going to be talking, going, hey, so what were you doing? Oh, I was running by and I saw this foot. Hey, you notice that it was, yeah. They're going to go to a dock, and some dock worker is going to try to run away when they come to question him. And again, it's well acted. But again, if we were on season 10 of This Is Us, we might be talking about that.
Okay, that's a good point. That's a very good point, actually.
Renee, do you watch Grey's?
So I don't. Law and Order, I used to watch a long time ago, and it was one of those shows I could have in the background because I kind of knew like how it was going to go. And to reference Ryan's earlier point of Blue's Clues, the Blue's Clues that I used to watch when I babysat children is now the same Blue's Clues that Reagan watched a few years ago. And yes, now, so like, what's going to happen at this point. It's just very, I don't know if that answers the question, but like, it's very predictable.
Right. But do you watch Grey's? I'm wondering if Grey's Anatomy, because they've been on for like 16 years, and people still seem really in love with it. So I'm wondering if they suffer from being on for too long.
I don't watch Grey's. I've never been a fan of Grey's.
But yeah, it does feel like, again, any show that goes on that long with existing storylines and with go back to SVU, if Benson was still a detective, and again, some of these, right, again, and some of these characters need to be promoted, needed to move on. So This Is Us has done this amazing thing where they show the past, they show the future, and they are fitting a story in there, which is really well done. And that's been the key is, the storyline, and as much as we may or may not like it. There are a chance of spinoffs, and do you give them a spinoff where they just focus on Randall and Beth and the family, or again, do you not do that because we have set a date in the future? I think it's how old do you think everyone is in the future?
5 years.
Well, no, there's two futures. There's the 5 years from now future, and then there is the future when they're. Because they are super. I went back and watched the video. Ryan, you just ignore us now. You just look at your phone for a second. So what they do at some point.
When Baby Jack is old.
When Baby Jack is right. So So Kevin's twins look to be about 10. Remember when they're running around the house?
Yes, but remember when Baby Jack, Kate and Toby's son, is because he's blind. Remember he goes on and he has.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, that's like 30 years in that's a long time. I forgot that there was an actual future. I'm just thinking more about when they're up in the mountains with, presumably hanging out with Rebecca for the last time.
Good question, Monica.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say no because I think that this show is every single person's story is important to the show to keep it all going, if that makes sense. Like if Randall wasn't adopted, if he wasn't black, if the whole story being left there, William, right, you would have huge gaps and they would probably fill it with something. It just wouldn't be it wouldn't hit home as much. It wouldn't be as interesting. That's just my thought. I
was gonna say we're not voting. I'm gonna vote. And tomorrow is election day. Please remember to vote. I am going to vote for the writers were always planning on dealing with it. Maybe not quite the way they did, because we saw enough scenes like the phenomenal first season scene where they're at the pool, I think they were always going to get to it, and then him wanting, you'll see there's a couple of things he does with his move, like with where Randall and Beth move. So there's at some point where I think they were going to deal with it, and then the Black Lives Movement, I think, kind of gave them that kick and maybe added a little more fire to how we handled it. Coming to goodness, was that this season? The beginning of this season already? Yeah, that's the one thing. This last season of This Is Us was the weird. It was, when I say weird, was usually This Is Us was shown week after week, and you either got 9 episodes, a couple weeks off, and then another 9 episodes. This was the first time that they did like 3 episodes, 4 weeks off, 3 episodes. Because of COVID, it was really filmed differently. And so when it finally comes back next 2022, we'll just get a nice 16 episode run. But yeah, no, so that was my long-winded way of saying I think that they always planned to touch on it, and but I think they just went another level with it. So
yeah. And also Rebecca's character wouldn't be nearly as interesting either. That her I don't want to say struggles. Can we say challenges and have them be 2 different meetings?
Yeah.
And then, like you said, the pool scene, like you need to find a black barber. You need to do this and that. And at first, she's kind of hard-headed about it, but then she swallows her pride and she's like, "Hey, I gotta learn. I could learn a thing or two," and walks back. And then there's that relationship, and there's stories, and Jack taking him to the karate school and all that. So yeah,
it would be super neat if we knew like a white mom who raised 2 biracial kids on like pretty much on her own. Like, that would be neat because again, like that's like it's 2 years into Shannon and I dating, and actually even from the very beginning, and Kaya would come home and wish she had freckles and straight hair like her friends, and Shannon would often straighten Kaya's hair, which I was not a fan of because I was like, no, dude, you got that hair, and being biracial, she got long, curly hair, but, and that was the thing, like, if there had been like her aunts in her life, like if their other side of their family had been a little closer with them, who could have maybe been in there to say, hey, love it, embrace it, and again, and that's where the beauty of this storytelling from This Is Us is, they kind of show the thought process where yeah, even if Shanna had like let me, when I say let me, if Shanna had agreed with me and like we sat down and talked to Kaya about embracing her hair and stuff like that, that were we the right voices to be telling her that? And I think that's kind of what we see throughout This Is Us, where like, Mandy and Moore and Jack could have done certain things, but they were never going to be there. They were never going to be I'm kind of stuttering through what I'm saying. They were never going to be the face that needed to tell them that, if that makes any sense. So are we learning something about Ryan's adoption?
When Jade was born, she was tall, and Ryan's dad said, well, Shauna is tall. Shauna and Ryan share no biology. My sister said this weekend that she sees Paul, Ryan's dad, and James, no biology shared there either. Funny and so beautiful at the same time. And it is one of those weird things, and I'm sure Renee has some things she could say as well, where it's kind of like, oh, I relate to my parents like this, or oh, we have this, and it's just like, yep, well, we're not blood, but we certainly are family.
So my sister and I sound identical on the phone. So that was our thing throughout high school. We used to always like trick our friends, blah, 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 all that stuff. But the coolest part for me is I never looked like anybody in my family, obviously. And talking about hair, dude, I wanted a perm because everybody in my family had curly hair and I had straight hair. But now I have a kid who, for the most part, Richard, right, looks identical to me. And so to hear that after 41 years of life that somebody looks like me is really awesome. But there are certain mannerisms and things that I do, like my siblings and everything, even like my cousins. And so, it's just really cool that people see different things in other people and just assume, and you just take it and you just thank them and say, hey, yep, living the best life. Here we go.
I love it.
So to put you on the spot, Renee, and also continue to talk about This Is Us, I would make the argument that Randall's entire storyline of looking for his dad and the things that happened through that, because everything about him looking for his parents and us judging it against his adoptive parents, really makes really makes the show. It's very much the centerpiece of the show. Did you ever think about doing what Randall did, Renee, or it never quite occurred to you?
Me personally, no. I've always just said I am lucky enough, blessed enough to be adopted. My parents have loved me from day one. I was 3 weeks old about. They tried for so many years to get a child. They adopted my older brother. 3 years later, they adopted me in the midst of my mom being pregnant with my sister. So my sister and I are only 7 months apart.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so it's crazy. So that even makes me feel more special that they wanted to go through with the adoption while they were pregnant with an actual biological child of their own. So, and Texas is a long way away from Jersey. I just don't have the time.
Wait, Renee, are we related? Did you know I'm adopted from Texas? Seriously?
Oh my God. Are you Reagan's father? Because she came out with dark hair. And
that's not how adoption works, Renee. Sorry.
I know, I'm just kidding.
Oh, but if he was your brother, it would make sense. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
That's why she's the only one that watches our podcast.
Ryan's my long lost brother from Fort Worth, Texas.
That is, yeah. No, I think part of Randall's journey was that he went, like, he made an hour or 2 hour drive when he eventually did that. Yes, I would think that. And
but
again,
I think that if you choose to go down that path, that is that just shows strength in your own character, because you don't know where that's going to lead. Here you have a life, hopefully. Here you have a life where you have very supportive parents. You've got a career. You have a family of your own, all that stuff. And you're going to risk going back and trying to find your biological parents who had you. And where are they now? And will they accept you? What is their story? Like, the little bit that I know about my adoption, the girl that had me was 16 years old and was going to go be a ballet dancer or something like that. So clearly, okay, fine. My parents at the age of, I don't even know what they were, 29, 30, we're ready to have more children, you know, like, so I see both sides of it. I definitely do.
It feels like everyone's any person who goes and looks for their biological parents, like the question has to be asked, why did you not want me? And you can ask it in different ways. You can say, why did you give me up? But it all is the same question. Why did you not want me? And and then you have to be prepared for that answer. And you're looking at your mom now 40 years later, and she goes, oh my goodness, I had a phenomenal opportunity to go this ballet class.
I don't think it's that. I think you're 16 in Fort Worth, Texas.
Yeah, right, exactly, right. You're like,
you're not having a baby.
And then when she was 26, she's like, I am not ready for this. I'm going to give this little boy up as well. And he was born with a full beard. I am just giving this little kid up. I mean, the fact that your names both start with R's is just. I have an idea. If Renee, if our ratings go through the roof, we need to do the 3R shows, like the 3 R's and
yes.
Isn't that saying like reading, writing, and arithmetic? Yeah, this totally works. What happened? Yes.
I just want to say real quick, I thought what summed it up perfectly, which even though it was comedic at the time when we all saw it, was when he brings William home and he walks up to his wife. He's like, I'm cracking up. And he's like, like, he can't figure out which emotion he wants to go with. He's just like so overwhelmed. Like, yeah, I found him. Oh God, what did I do? Oh God. Like,
yeah, I think we've said this amongst ourselves a couple times now. Like, I am looking forward to when it's all over, binging it. Yeah, that's not the right word. Yeah. Rewatching it all and kind of seeing what we miss. It's one of those shows that unfortunately it's not going to be on in reruns because you need to watch it like as a binge. It's like that Lost or 24 syndrome where you need to kind of watch it. Right? Yeah. If you you put on USA and any random SVU episodes on, it is what it is. But when you with This Is Us, if you put on episode 5 of season 3 and you're like, oh, what's happening here? Yeah, you're not going to get the same out of it. So, but I really look forward to when they have this complete story told. And I'm really confident saying I'm not going to be disappointed. Like, because they're, again, like what they've done is they have towed that line from between soap opera and dramatic storytelling. Like without like, oh no, but I was your actual father. Like, there's no like, and then again, it's dramatic. Like it is, it's often crazy, but it's never just like, oh, I was your twin brother and, I pretended to be you, so.
Yeah, no. And I just want to say real quick while I have this thought in my head, really, I don't even want to say gamble, or maybe it is a gamble. No, let's say interesting choice. Randall finding his dad like episode 2. Like usually that's like a season 2 or 3 thing, but they were like, nope, do it, it'll work. Let's go with it.
I like that point. Like they kept throwing in things, and you'll see that, Ryan. They throw things in, you're like, whoa, where is this coming from? What?
No, and again, like with Monica saying, do you think the writers always had this in mind? I think some of the things that they didn't have in mind was like, they have not, like I've said this already today, they never had a bad actor. So like they're like, oh my goodness, William needs to keep being in these stories. Or at some point you meet Jack's dad and you very much feel like, all right, Jack's dad is going to be just, and they're like, Jack's dad, the actor who plays Jack's dad is amazing. And so yeah, we want to tell more stories. And if you notice, like Renee, like Jack's mom isn't in more stories. And I don't know if that, again, I don't know if that's the thing where it's like, yeah, the mom didn't really, hit for us, or she wasn't. But or they always had it in mind, no matter how good the actor was or wasn't, and they just tell these amazing stories, jumping from the past to the future and to the present time. And they, like we said in an earlier episode, they did the pandemic pretty decent too. Like show, so.
Yeah, man.
But and that is us. That needs to be the last line of the show. Like, and that's us. That is us.
And that is us. And then and the camera pulls away, and they're all like,
They're all waiting. Right? Yeah, no, seriously, that's how I would end the show, and that's why I don't have a job as a writer. And I would have like all the kids come out, everyone just be like, So, all right, Renee, any closing thoughts?
No, I'm excited for Ryan to catch up. I'm glad Monica caught up on everything. Don't give away any spoilers, Monica. And if you need to talk, you can just reach out to Richard and I.
Well, I don't have. The only final thought I have is that I think me being where I'm at in the series, if you will, is I'm just ready to go. Like I'm back to what Richard said in the beginning about how at first you're like, okay, it's another drama about a family, this and that. So well done. And the last thing I want to say as closing thoughts is I think there's a lot that we all can learn. Here comes Ryan's preaching. Sorry, I got to do it, guys. But it stood out to me. I think one of the things that we all can learn from the show is that if we talk about how we're feeling when we're feeling that way, we can save years of therapy, pain, and other things, because there's so many things that stuck out to me where it's like, damn, if Kevin had just said how he felt years ago, it could have been a conversation. Instead, it went on for years, and him and Randall had this issue, and he felt like he was neglected by his mom. But I think you see that in real life a lot too. It's like, well, why didn't you just tell me this years ago? It could have been a conversation. And it's like, well, you wouldn't have listened. And it's like, I would have. But anyway, that's just something that I picked up from it, is that it's all issues that we have faced or could face, and like, let's just talk about it before years go by, and we're bringing our real dads into the house and throwing the yarn ball at Thanksgiving, and it gets crazy. My closing thoughts are that Ryan. This is definitely true. This is 100% true. My closing thoughts are that Ryan used to make fun of me for being so invested in this show, and oh, how things have changed. He should listen to me more. Listen to her all the time.
Right. Again, as Ryan just said, like, you should talk more, but Ryan, sometimes listening is just an important skill. And my closing thoughts are the one for my personal, I'm not going to talk about my own personal feelings, but I've wanted to quit on this show so many times. The amount of times that I'll be sitting there and be like, oh, they're going to go back and do another Jack and Rebecca story. And I'm like, I really don't want to, like, I could care less. And then I'm like, nope, they did it. They did it perfectly. Because at some point after, 5 seasons of this, like, you're like, okay, well, they told that. Nope, they did not tell that story. And, they do it. So anyone who's listening got this far, hopefully our vague way of talking around things won't spoil anything for you. And if you watch it over time, you won't even remember what we said. But definitely, well, I know a lot of people, I feel like Renee has definitely heard this from some of our coworkers / friends, like, oh, it's too sad. And while it is sad, I would say, Shanna said, life is sad. Yeah, I don't know what we can do to book her as a guest on the show. But I think I've cried more like those kind of like, I call them the Rudy tears, like at the end of Rudy when he gets the sack and you're like, right, Rudy, like I've cried more like almost happy tears, or like, did you get to the Jack doing push-up scene yet in the karate?
Not yet.
Oh, yeah. You will bawl when Jack does push-ups in the karate. Yeah. So, but it's a good thing. So
I agree. They round the show out perfectly every episode, but
much like our show.
I was just about to say, segue. We round everything out in our episode as well. So big thank you to Renee for calling in and joining us. Hopefully Monica and Shanna will use something besides the chat box one of these days. No disrespect. But
I mean, Monica does her own show. I mean, she does come on to her own show. So.
That's true. Monica does come on and do the podcast, so that's true. But well, Renee, thank you for joining us. You are no longer just a viewer. You are now a special guest host. So thank you for joining us.
Does that mean she doesn't qualify for? Does that mean she doesn't qualify for prizes anymore? Because she will be pissed about it.
You no longer can win the Target gift cards, Renee.
Oh man, Reagan will be so disappointed.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. We will see you next week. Take care.
Thank you, gentlemen.